Number 8. Adam and Eve. One of the foundational stories of the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve, tells the tale of the original human couple, the parents of the entire human race. In the book of Genesis, God creates Adam, the first man, placing him in the Garden of Eden. Believing it is not good for the man to be alone, God first creates other animals, and then, realizing that animals are not sufficient company, God takes one of Adam's ribs and uses it to create Eve, the first woman. When Adam and Eve are convinced by a serpent to eat from the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil, God becomes angered and punishes them, expelling them both from the Garden of Eden, whereupon they go on to found the human race. Of course, modern science has shown that humans did not just miraculously start as two fully formed people, but rather evolved over countless generations into what they are today. However, scientific evidence is beginning to emerge which suggests that there may be more truth to the story of Adam and Eve than many scientists imagined. It begins with the concept of mitochondrial Eve. Simply, mitochondrial DNA is the unique genetic code passed down from female to female. Trace back far enough and you will reach a woman from whom all humans can trace their mitochondrial DNA, known as mitochondrial Eve. Similarly, all living men have a Y chromosome descended from one man, known as Y chromosome Adam. In either case, the name is a bit of a misnomer. Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve are not the first people ever, like the biblical Adam and Eve, but the two people whose genetic lineage we all share. Just because everyone is descended from them does not mean there were no people before them or at the same time. In 1987, scientists were able to pinpoint the actual mitochondrial Eve as a woman who lived in Africa some 200,000 years ago, while further studies found that the actual Y chromosome Adam lived some 100,000 years ago. In other words, not only were Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve not the first humans ever, like the biblical Adam and Eve, but they had lived many thousands of generations apart and had certainly never known each other, let alone reproduced together. This stood as the scientific consensus until 2013, when everything changed. That year, 2 independent studies were each able to uncover thousands of previously unknown DNA sequence variations. Astonishingly, using these variations, each study revised the time period in which Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve would have lived, and independently concluded that not only could they have lived at the same time, but in the same region. This was a groundbreaking discovery. If Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve had lived at the same time in the same place, could they have known each other? Could they have reproduced together? In 2020, a biologist named Joshua Swamidass took the idea further and proposed that a human couple referred to as Adam and Eve could actually have procreated together and become universal ancestors to the entire human race. And, moreover, that they may not have lived in the distant past, but as recently as a few thousand years ago. The key, according to Swamidass, was that while universal genetic ancestors are rare, genealogical ancestry is quite common. Think about it like this. You get 50% of your DNA from each of your parents, 25% from each grandparent, 12.5% from each great-grandparent, and so on. The further back you go, the lower the percentage, until eventually the number becomes so small as to be immeasurable. This means that you will have ancestors who are genetic ghosts, meaning that while they are your ancestors, you haven't inherited any measurable DNA from them. Here, Swamidass pointed to a 2004 study which used a computer simulation to test for the most recent common ancestors for all humans, the point where all family trees converge into one pool. Published in Nature Journal, the study found this could have happened as recently as a few thousand years ago. For Swamidass, this had paradigm-shifting implications. In his opinion, It meant that both evolution, with humans slowly evolving into what they are today, and the biblical story of Adam and Eve, with a human couple serving as the parents of all living humans today, could both be true at the same time. This was different than research on Y chromosome Adam and mitochondrial Eve, but in either case, the suggestion was the same. An Adam and Eve couple could have existed at some time in the past and procreated together to become the common ancestors of all humanity.